Hey, hi community. So today we'll discuss about server versus serverless. So you must have heard a lot about it. What is server, and like a lot of people are using server, and a lot of people are also going with the approach of serverless. So what exactly it is, and what is the concept behind it? So like we discussed in computing, there are mostly three type of services that AWS and any cloud provides. Like mostly are server, serverless, and managed. So server is something we create our own server. Serverless is we don't have to create our own server, and managed is which has been taken care by AWS. Okay, so as an example, for now you understand this. Suppose for server we create EC2 machines. For serverless there is a service called in Amazon AWS, I mean Lambda, and for managed there will be like S3 buckets and all which has been taken care by AWS itself, right? So this is how. Let's see what is server actually, and so we will basically discuss about these two. Manage is S3 that we can handle in a separate topic later maybe. Okay, so let's discuss about server first. Yeah. So in server, what happens? Suppose you have written some codes. Okay, suppose you have written some Java code or some Python code or some Java code or something. Okay, so post on now. Once you do that, of course you need a server to deploy it, right? You need a server to anyone to access that. You cannot share your system or your local to show someone anything, whatever you have written the code and whatever the functionality is, right? So for that we have to create one server which cloud provide us to create our own servers, and we can create it easily. So in AWS we have a machine, we have a service called EC2, which we use which we use to create our machines and all. Okay, so like Linux, machine, Mac, Windows, or whatever we want. So those all things we can create it. How to create this? There is a separate video for that. I'll provide the link, and for Lambda, will cover this separately. Okay. So this is how. So suppose you have written some code and now you have created one machine, and here you want to deploy it. So suppose once you create the machine, now you have gone and run your like Maven build or node build or npm, whatever you want. So you have run it, and now we are able to, like, it has been ran properly. Okay, so once you create the machine, it gives you private IP, public IP, and other config. There are a number of configs as well. So that also, suppose whenever you will be accessing the IP, then only you will be able to see that. So in EC2 instance, what happens? Public IP used to get changed whenever suppose you are restarting, or suppose you are uh, doing something. So IPs will get changed, but mostly public IP is the IP that we use for accessing the machine. Remember again, public IP is the IP that we use to access the machine. Private will be always there, but we mostly use public to access it. Okay, so once you create this machine, they will provide you a public IP, private IP, and other configurations. And suppose this is a AWS cloud. Okay, so whatever will be the IP, whatever will be the machine you create, the IP will exist somewhere in the server of AWS. So that's why the IP is given to us, that is specific address. So whenever we want to access something, we'll go to the particular server, particular IP. So in the whole big server of Amazon cloud, we will have a separate IP that will be only ours, and we can use it, right? So that will be only ours. Then these all other must be, other people must be using, or it will be free. Some may create in future, they will use. So as per that, the IPs will get allocated to the particular servers that we created. Yeah, so for accessing that, of course, we have to go through the approach of SSH. Of course, you know the SSH, like connecting with the putty and all. And then when you create the machine, you will be able to see that there will be a key file get generated. With that, we can easily access SSH it and access the machine. So for accessing the machine means what? Once you access that, you can run the command for your build and all, whatever you want to perform. So the more idea is, this is the server journey. So you take your code, you go to you create a machine, you keep your code there, you build it, and it will be This with this public IP, the code can be accessed to anyone. And on top of this public IP itself, we can create some subdomains, and also you'll be asking like, we don't usually access the things through public IPs and all. So of course we don't, because the DNS or the domain name, whatever you can say as of now, the DNS we use to top up on the public IP. That's why. But public IP is the main that we use it, because this is the IP which is allocated in AWS as our machine. Okay, so that is the server approach. What is serverless? So serverless approach is, again, the code will be same. Suppose this is your code only, and yeah. So once you don't have to create the server here. Firstly, there will be a one service in Amazon we called as a Lambda. Okay, so just take as an example. So whenever you just have to create the service, go put your code, it will be executed on the defined endpoint. Okay, so means that whenever you will be executing your code, it will get defined on some endpoint that that Amazon provides you a particular link or something to you. Okay, and this link will have some particular access. This link will be, of course, rely somewhere on the particular server. So that means you don't have to create the server, you have to just put your code, execute it, and when it gets executed, it will provide you a link which you can open it. But in the backend, this link also rely on some server that we don't have to create, that AWS manages itself. But yeah, so but suppose you have created today and again you are coming tomorrow, so there could also be the possibility, suppose like yesterday it was accessing from the A IP maybe, and tomorrow it possible that it may provide us the access from the K IP. So we don't have to take care of this, AWS usually take care of this, and that's why we call as in serverless, because we don't have to worry about the server, right? We just have to worry about our code and our structure of this, right? So here they don't give you the proper URL because AWS won't give you particular server that access anytime on the same IP. Clear? Yeah. So and next is, when you come back, they may distribute your load to another server in the backend and little bit slow than full. Full means server. Yeah, so that could also the possibility, because it can be slow because this is not your particular IP and you are not accessing every time, and this is not allocated to you. So maybe it can be a little bit slow because it is accessing every time and maybe redirecting to the different server and try to distribute your load and all. So that's why there will be different servers in the backend, so it can be a little bit slow. But yeah, that's how the serverless works. You don't have to worry about your server, you just have to worry about your code and other parts of it, and it will directly provide you the link which can be accessible in the backend from the any IP or any server. Okay, so that's how serverless works. So clear? This is the basic difference. In server, we have to create our own journey of the server and then we have to deploy. In serverless, we have to just provide the code, execute it, and get a link and try to access it, right? So that's what it is, basically, the server and serverless. And about S3, this is managed server which is taken care by Amazon itself, so you don't have to worry about it now. Later we can see about S3. Okay, so thank you.